Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Advisor. My name is Lisa Urbanski, co-host of the show. So today I'm super excited because I'm welcoming a woman who refuses to be boxed in by anyone's expectations. Jasmin Shojai, you probably met her on the glossy pages of Playboy, Maxim, or FHM. The camera loves her, but her story goes way beyond the lens. So, we're going to unpack some things today. We're going to talk about her back-to-back wins at Australia's top glamour model to chasing her roles in her indie films. All the while, she was living proudly and openly as a queer woman. And because Jasmine's the kind of dimensional person who keeps you guessing. She's also knee deep in law and economics. I know. She's up right now studying and doing this interview with me. So we're going to nerd out on all of that stuff. Before I introduce her to the stage, I want to thank Spreaker and iHeartRadio for your sponsorship. And to our audience and our listeners, we love you. Please do not forget to like and subscribe before you leave today. Jasmine, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. I've had a pretty cruisy night actually. So I had a
Ooh,
comedy
tell us.
class, I think maybe an hour ago. So in Melbourne, where I'm based, there's a lot of comedy. In fact, we have like an international comedy festival that runs every year. Anyway, there's a group called, and I don't know if this is free advertising for them, but I don't mind, the Improv Pit. And
Okay.
I do comedy classes with them. So it's improv or it's improvised. So there's a few of us on stage that pretty much make up a narrative, and it's usually something really I say this in a good way, really stupid, but it's something that people
Love
can
that.
laugh at. Yeah, yeah. And it's a lot of fun because I can get away from my analytical, journey at the moment and go to something that's a little bit more creative and a little bit more spontaneous because, as I said before, it's nothing is planned. You're on stage and then, yeah, you have a lot of fun with it.
Nice. I think that's how life should be. We're always like so stuck in the future or the past and just living in the moment and doing what we truly feel in the moment. Gosh, that's like my dream. Improv all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's interesting because I mean, I say I am, but I think we all are at some sort of spot in our lives where we're working on ourselves and trying to understand where we are at in our like journey, in our life journey. So it's so funny because I've met a lot of people for the first time. Like, I've met new people and they've been in a similar position to me. So a lot of the time I'm, not trying to focus too much on the past, but rather focus on um the future or like be in the moment. So understand what's happening in the moment and be more grateful for what's already there, which tends to be right in front of you rather than looking backwards at things where like again, I'm taking this away from this mental health training, if you will, that I've been doing, that you should never say, oh, this should have happened or this should have actually turned out this way. And by the time you do that several times a day, you're actually putting a lot of hurt on yourself for something that actually cannot be changed.
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
universe has it all figured out. We just gotta pay attention, right? It's cool. It's
Mm,
cool. So,
mm.
Jasmine, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself in your words?
In my own words, besides all of this stuff that I've been actively doing, I see myself as a very um, determined, but also a very humble person. I love appreciating little things in life, even if it's like having a coffee with a friend. Um, Enjoying my morning at work because sometimes some mornings are actually very stressful. So having a very cruisy start to the day is something I love to appreciate. Sleeping in, going to comedy class. So there's a lot of things that I actually love doing that are not necessarily like part of my career or part of the goals that I have achieved. I like to sing at home inside my place. I was doing theater for a while as well, and that sort of was, I don't want to say it was the end. I took a break from it so that I could focus on other goals that I had. And I think subconsciously, and I do this all the time, but I actually think it's an amazing tool. Um, it's almost like instead of worrying about what you don't have, use that same energy to be proactive. So I think that's what I kind of did. I kind of thought, okay, I have these other goals, so this is not going to be forgotten, and eventually all of this is going to come together. If anyone's listening to this, I highly recommend that sort of way of thinking.
Beautiful. I love that you started telling us about your authentic self and not about what defines you, because that's truly what people want to know, like who you are. And those are the things in your heart. So I love that. Gosh, I love an easy morning so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, same. It's a lot better than having to, I don't know, I like feel anxious or feel on edge or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I find when I pick up my phone, when I wake up and I start scrolling, like my anxiety just like starts growing. So I'm learning how to put the phone down and just get up and like do my gratitude and then go on with my day and have a damn good cup of coffee. I need my caffeine. What about you?
I definitely need coffee. Like I'm trying to stay off of it. I would take maybe 3 coffees a day because of how busy I am. But then I learned, oh, there's other ways you can get energy without having to resort to that. So yeah, I find I'm only having one, but yeah, that's in the morning.
Nice, nice. I would love to talk to you about your photo shoots and, being in Playboy. What was that like? Like, paint us a snapshot on, day one on set and like, what did that teach you about yourself and about life and what was that experience like?
I think every time I look back, I think about how lovely and amazing those days were. I can't remember the term, but it's like when you look back and everything was just so wonderful and happy days. So obviously I look back and I think, oh, I'm so grateful that I was able to do all of that. If I think to that very moment, like when I did my first cover shoot, I think I was nervous and relaxed at the same time because the person who I was working with, he was in my opinion, a very humble and relaxed individual, even though he did a lot of Playboy shoots, particularly for this specific Playboy magazine, which was Playboy Croatia. And anyway, it was just really chill. So by the time I was nervous and essentially taking things off because it was an artistic nude kind of concept, I just felt really relaxed, but I was like beaming on the inside. Um,
Mm,
Obviously I couldn't have like a giant smile in the in the takes because that just didn't go with what was happening. But I think on the inside I was really happy and back then I thought I was straight. So I had my boyfriend with me supporting me doing this photo shoot because this was all the way in Toronto, Canada, out of all places. It
wow, I'm
sounds
actually in Canada.
okay, well, there you go. So, yeah, you know. So it sounds random to people who don't know anything about Playboy, etc. But
Yeah, it is
it
kind of
was,
random. Yeah.
yeah, but it was pretty normal because we were networking a lot before this photo shoot even happened. And it turned out that for some reason there was a very small handful of Canadian photographers who did photo shoots for Playboy, and they were all in that Toronto area from what I remember back then. So for us it was like, oh yeah, that's the place to be. We know what we're doing. But yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't imagine how you felt when you were asked to be on the cover of Playboy. Like, what an accomplishment. Your heart was probably just beaming.
I was. It was just really nice. It was there's a huge like almost manifestation story to it because I remember having this really difficult time. When I say difficult, I don't mind sharing actually for the purpose of this interview with friends, but more specifically, I was in a domestic violence situation.
Mm,
And this was nearly 10 years ago. So at that time, I felt very vulnerable, of course. And then even after law enforcement came in and things actually were put in place so that I was protected. But the point was, even after that, I still felt vulnerable and I felt like I couldn't do anything. And trust me, there's a bright side to this, but even when I was getting out of it, I feel that I had to let go of a lot of people because they were associated with that person, even though it wasn't their fault. So I felt even more lonely. Of course, I started dating this person, and he was a really lovely guy, actually. We were together for a very long time back then. And so he was supportive. And then when I was getting into modeling, and mind you, I was not in Melbourne, I was in another city, but at the time, the industry was really small. So I think people's mindsets were very small. So here I come in going, oh, I actually really want to do this. And oh, I really would like to be on covers of magazines. They probably were either perhaps jealous, I don't know, or they thought I was insane. Um, And
yeah.
then the funny part is when I eventually did do those goals that I mentioned, like um, being on the cover of Playboy and even being featured inside Playboy, to be honest, because I had been featured several times, all these people who thought I was insane were like, oh wow,
You did
she
it.
knows what she's doing, yeah. Hmm.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm so happy that you got out of that domestic toxic relationship. And, sometimes those things can project us into our bigger selves, the resilience, the strength that we get from those times is next to none. But one of the things that you've said is, labels never quite fit. So how did you learn to trust yourself to stay true to who you are in an industry that somewhat may try and define you? I mean, I don't know what it's like, but
Hmm.
from the outside, like how did you remain yourself?
I think I was, first of all, now that I look back, I had a lot of close support. So my mom and my boyfriend, I would say he was a very serious boyfriend at the time and he was a good person. They were really close to me, and it was almost as if they were there doing the photo shoots with me
Mm.
vicariously. But, you know, so I feel very grateful to have had that because now that I get older and obviously I'm not with that person anymore, but it can be very hard not to have such close support. I think there's a fan base or there's people who look at you from a distance and think, "Oh wow, you're amazing and you're great." But to have people very close to you and actually support you nearly every day, that's for some people that's not there, but I had that. So that helped me feel authentic in the sense of, I'd come back from these photo shoots or whatever, and I'd be with my partner back then, or I'd be with my mom, etc. And, I could talk to these people about my experience and I could still be me in that realm. And I think the people who didn't really know me as my true self were probably people who were at a distance. So maybe other models, maybe some other photographers or people in a fan base, but I'd say my close friends and those particular people were very understanding of me.
I love that. You channeled them in your work and they helped you stay true to who you are. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
So I have to ask, and I mean, I know you openly talk about it. You mentioned having a boyfriend, and then you mentioned openly that you're living as a queer woman. Can you talk to us about that and about that transition, that realization, and what
Yeah.
that's been like?
Well, the interesting thing is, I think a lot of people kind of knew, and then a lot of people didn't. What, like in terms of people around me, that is. So I think the the literal story, really, objectively speaking, perhaps, is I felt these feelings of being attracted to women more than men, and I mean this quite substantially from a very young age. I was probably a child, really, not knowing what it meant to like certain things and to feel certain things. Because at the end of the day, I think the ability to like something or to enjoy something isn't dictated by your gender.
Mhm.
And I think as well that feminine and masculine energy isn't like limited to your biology either. So the fact that I felt this particular energy about women from such a young age meant something, but at that age I didn't know. So I feel like a lot of the times throughout my life it was suppressed, particularly when I had a homophobic experience at the age of 17. And look, if anyone in my hometown is watching this, I feel bad because I feel that's that particular city. I mean, it's a wonderful city, by the way, but I feel like going back 10, 15 years ago, I think the society there was very small-minded. So,
Mm.
acceptance in at least in my experience of homosexuality was not really there. It may have been, but not really. So, unfortunately, I had a not so great experience at that age, and that was the like that was a turning point. That's the age when you actually start wanting to be sexually active.
Mhm.
So, I turned that all in. Mind you, and not many people know this, so I don't mind sharing this for this interview. My first kiss was with a girl and not with a boy.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Juicy.
Yeah. So it was a nice experience, I mean, I'm sure. And then of course as I closed in and thought, "Oh, I need to listen to what all these people are telling me." Then I started dating guys. And there was nothing wrong with that because, as I said, I had a really, I think there were two like relationships I had in particular. One of them I have mentioned already that were really good and they were really humble relationships. Of course, we had our problems, but he was a really nice person. So if he watches this, well, he's gonna thank me maybe. But the point was, it was a nice experience, and I mean, I had my fair share of obviously not many good experiences, and that's where the domestic violence, of course, was part of that. But interestingly now, as I bring it up, I'm also trying to work through overcoming my past and not, having that be just a horrible memory. I guess it's deviating away from the question, but I guess as well, like being myself authentically wasn't easy, I will admit, because more so of what happened when I was 17. And then when I started joining the theater and performing arts, it was actually more easier to be me because we were learning to become characters. And
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense, but to me that just helped with my confidence. And then I moved to a bigger city, which is here, and there's a large support for anyone who's part of that LGBTQ community. So, yeah.
Well, I can definitely relate. I grew up in a small community. I was so curious about everything in life, like wanted to try all the new things. I felt that box that you're talking about. Like community wanted me to be a certain way, but in my heart, I'm like, I'm not this way at all. So, I really give you credit for following your heart and for doing what you needed to do. And gosh, when you finally break free from that, it's so amazing. I was addicted to drugs. I was interested in exploring with other sexes as well, and bisexuality and all those things in a community that was so conservative. And God, I can relate to that on so many levels. So for any young LGBTQ creatives watching you, like what advice would you give them to your fans and the people who watch you? Well, what would you tell them?
Like about being queer or just about following your dreams?
Yeah, just give them just a little spark of inspiration on following their dreams.
Um, I think you need to be able to believe in something, but believe in something authentically. So it's not because someone else told you to believe in it that you should believe in it. It's okay to allow people to influence you and say, oh, maybe you should try this. And that's fine, but really follow your heart because that's the thing that's never going to lie to you. Our minds, because of everything that's external to us, can adopt many negative viewpoints, and our minds will say, "Oh, I can't do this," or "This is too difficult," or "If I do this, this will happen," or "If I do this, this person will think like uh, um, of me in this bad way," or something like that. And that's not really you talking. And I think on the inside or in your heart, you know what you really want to do. And because you really know what you want to do, that's actually a huge gift. The number of times I've met someone who said, "Oh yeah, I'm not really sure what I want to do." I also believe behind that, when there's uncertainty, it is because someone is confused. But confusion, and again, this is like going into like mental health and stuff like that, but is another word for saying, oh, I'm too scared to try that because I fear this will happen to me. So I guess a little bit of risk taking is a good thing. Obviously, if someone wants to become a professional diver, I have no idea why I came up with that scenario, but don't like jump off. So don't do anything like that. But like the point is, a lot of the times we know what we actually want. And the first person we have to tell ourselves, to tell that we want to do that thing is ourselves. And then we can start telling other people once we accept that this is what we want to do. But yeah, I just knew even before, domestic violence, the more before I met my partner at that time, and even before the age of 17, I knew I wanted to do something really fun, but on a bigger scale. So I feel like even going back to my childhood times, I really wanted to do something creative like this.
Love that. So then talk to us about your transition to film and that industry and how did you get into acting?
Well, acting came to me through modeling, and it was interesting because I think before I wanted to become a model, this is going back when I was very young as a child, I actually wanted to become an actor. And I didn't really have the guts to do that when I was very young. And then when I got into modeling, it was interesting because we had meetings with, I don't know, talent agencies, people who were in the industry, and they said, oh, I could, number of times I heard, oh, I really could imagine you as an actress. Now, I'm not saying they were like being, I don't know, I'm not saying they were bullshitting me because they were all different people that weren't related to each other. You know what I mean? Like they were just completely different individuals that I met over time in different places. So it just started ringing an idea in my head where I was like, okay, I think I'd love to. do more than what I'm already doing. Because modeling in a way is acting, but you're taking stills. And acting is when you're really taking a step or two and higher than that, and you're actually performing and you're living someone else's life because you're living in the character's shoes and understanding what they're going through. So there was that, and I really loved doing theater as well, but I didn't really have the confidence to do that, believe it or not, after everything I had already done. And then I met someone, and again, it's so funny. This was the last man I dated before I like I was like, you know what? I really am just not straight. So he was good in the sense of he really opened me up and made me realize what I can do. He was a bit of a go-getter as well, like me, and he would just try things, but he wouldn't let other people judge him, or he wouldn't even
Mm.
let himself judge himself. He'd be like, "No, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to listen to how a director tells me to do things, or how an acting teacher might tell me to portray this character." So his willingness to try things and his ability to be so open-minded and accept instructions, because it half the time in acting, it's not just you, you're actually relying on what you've been directed to do.
Right. Yeah.
Um, at least in my experience, I haven't done so many films like Leonardo DiCaprio, so I have no idea. But the point is, in the time that I was acting, his advice really helped me. So by the time I had met him and started acting and doing things, I had done a lot of small film projects. So these were short films. In Canberra. So that's the small city that I grew up in. And then I had progressed more into theater because that's what I really liked. I liked the ability to move more and be in front of a live audience. And so to this very day, I actually love being in front of a live audience. If there's ever a presentation at university, I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds fun. So again, it was like in a nutshell, I mean, I could go on all day. That was how that transition happened. And I think in addition to that particular individual, there are many other people who I met and I thought, wow, you're really cool. And you're giving me influence to try something that I haven't tried before.
Love that. Everything that we're speaking of, I love that there's always like a key person or key people in your life that kept you grounded and gave you that. It was like you use them as your muse in a sense to give you power and strength in those moments. It just shows how important it is to have really good people around us. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like if we don't have really good people around us supporting us, that's a lot of pressure on ourselves to perform and to be that person that we know we're supposed to be. So I love that there was people lighting the path for you.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good times, good experience. And I agree, like who you have around you is super important, but you never know how someone is going to influence you. So, for example, if you meet people and you're like, "Oh, they're not," and I'm just making this up by the way, "Oh, they're not super smart," or "They're not the CEO of a company. Why should I associate myself with them?" No, it's got nothing to do with that. I think status is probably the least important thing I found that helped me in my career. It's interesting now that I think about it, it had nothing to, the people who influenced me in such a way weren't particularly like huge, powerful people. It was just something about them that they had, and they obviously were really good individuals as well.
That's amazing. So tell us about now you're in school. What are you aspiring to do now?
Um, so while I can, obviously it's going to be a long degree. I've got like 4.5 years to go. So it's not like it's going to happen now, but I have already had some legal like legal experience in a law firm already, which was really valuable. I loved it a lot actually, but I'm studying law and economics.
Wow,
S-
good for you. You're just like a whole
Yeah.
package girl, aren't you?
I think so. Well, the funny thing is, like, all of this seems to trace back to my childhood. I do recall wanting to be an advocate for others as some sort of a lawyer when I was little. So it seems to be happening inadvertently. Like, I'm not, I'm doing these things, and then down the track, I'm remembering, oh, hold on, didn't I want to do this like a long time ago? So it's very interesting, yeah.
That's amazing. I love that so much. You know, you're such a role model for other women out there, and especially young girls who are challenged with social media and comparison, and like it's really amazing that you can show other women that you can be all the things. You don't have to be in a box. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, you definitely don't have to be. I think, like I said, follow what's in your heart and go for that. Yeah.
Amen. Yes. So I have a little fun lightning round kind of planned. I'm going to ask you some questions
Okay.
and you answer them spontaneously. So, what was your first big splurge after your Playboy cover?
Like splurge as in what did I do? Like spend money on.
Like, what did you spend your money on?
Um, to be honest, I invested it back into my career. I just paid
Mm.
for more portfolio shoots, more tools that could help market me. And so I was interestingly very strategic there.
What is your sign, your astrological sign?
Cancer.
Mm. Favorite color?
Gold.
What did you say?
Gold?
Oh, gold. Okay. Do you prefer script or improv?
Script.
Okay. One legal drama you secretly binge for fun, or your favorite legal drama?
Favorite legal drama. Okay, I'm gonna have a mind blank, but I'm pretty sure I saw something to do with law. I do apologize. I think it's so funny because I've seen so many like snippets of court proceedings, and it's not that the movie or series I'm thinking of is a law series, but they it involved going to court, and there was just something about it. Yeah. Uh, there was, yeah. I'll have to
Okay. That's
if it
okay.
comes back to me, I'll let you know.
Um, book, favorite book.
Favorite book? Uh, there's quite a few. I have a bookshelf in the distance, so I'm just trying to remember. Um, okay, this is one of them, dress rehearsals.
Love it. Favorite emoji that you use in your messages.
I think like the one I'm using the most as of late is like the smiley face with all the hearts surrounding it. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, last one. What keeps you grounded and centered?
Grounded and centered. Musical theater.
Mm. Ooh, I have one more question then. What's your favorite music?
My favorite music. I have so many, but I think for the sake of this interview, I definitely musical theater, like anything that's come from a show and yeah, it's people are singing, obviously. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's been so much fun talking to you. I'd love for you to share to the audience where they can find you and follow you and support you so you can support them.
Well, I'm mainly on Instagram nowadays. I am on Facebook as well. But if you head over to Instagram and look up Jasmin Shojai model, you'll definitely find me. And if you do the same on Facebook, you'll find me there as well. I might be opening a TikTok soon, so maybe keep an
Hmm.
eye out on those pages for a TikTok link. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And what is one thing you want to leave the audience with before we say goodbye for today?
Um, Actually, this is a really helpful one. I'll try to put it nice and short. So sometimes there are things that happen to us that can be tr quite demeaning or hurtful. It could be splitting up from someone. It could be having a terrible experience while trying something for the first time, perhaps. Like, for example, I don't know, public speaking. It's not so much the fact that something has happened or that something happened in such a way, it's how you live with it and perceive it. So it's again, it's not so much of what literally happened, but if we change the meaning or the link that we've associated ourselves with it, instead of saying, oh, this was traumatic, that in itself doesn't achieve anything. So what you need to do is you have to say, because of this, I was able to do this afterwards, or I came out as a more braver person, for example. So changing the meaning with things that have already happened that you no longer have control of course, because they already occurred, is so important in order to move forward.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for being here today. It was so much fun getting to talk to you, getting to know you a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. You just heard from Jasmin Shojai. Please do not forget to like and subscribe before you leave today. Until next time, I'm Lisa Urbanski with The Advisor. Bye.